Welcome to Talking Up Music Education, a podcast from the NAMM Foundation. The NAMM Foundation is working to assure that all children have the opportunity to learn and grow with music, and that music is part of daily living for everyone. Talking Up Music Education podcast shares news and stories about music education from teachers, students, parents, school, and community leaders who care about music education and are working to create more opportunities for music learning. And now, here's your host, Mary Luehrsen.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mary Luehrsen. I'm the Executive Director of the NAMM Foundation, and we are here at the NAMM Show in Anaheim, California, with our Talking Up Music Education podcast. So welcome, and we're glad that you're joining us. If you hear some wonderful music either reverberating through our audio, it's because we are near the Grand Plaza stage, and there's an incredible hot big band that's really ramping it up as we get close to noon here in Anaheim, California. So to kick off our recordings here during the NAMM Show of Talking Up Music Education, our podcast devoted to music education advocacy, is a wonderful friend. I'm so grateful to see Governor Mike Huckabee, the former governor of Arkansas, just off the campaign trail one day before the inauguration, and he's here at the NAMM Show. Welcome, Governor Huckabee.
Thank you, Mary. What a joy to be back at NAMM. I love this show. As you know, I've been coming for several years to be with you and the foundation, and it is truly one of the highlights of my life and the highlight of every year.
Yeah.
And this year especially. You know, I didn't get to come last year because I was in the middle of a campaign, but let's not talk about how that turned out for me. I'm here instead of in D.C. being inaugurated. So,
right.
But, you know, it's all good. And I'm sitting at this point now able to celebrate the transition in this country, and also knowing that I've got some freedom to do some things, even in music and arts, that I haven't been able to do in the last few years because I was so busy. And I'm excited about that.
And we are excited to have you back. I can't tell you. And we first met in just the year or so before the first campaign.
Yeah.
Right? So the kind of campaign bookends here. So NAMM will always have a place for you at NAMM, and we have a lot to talk about with music and arts education. So I want to reminisce a little bit.
Okay.
Because you came onto our radar when you were governor of Arkansas, and you were governor of Arkansas for 11 years. And during that period, you did something that no other governor had ever done in any state anywhere, which was to effectively pass a state-level education requirement for music education and for visual arts education.
Yes.
Can you tell us something about when that happened and how it happened?
Well, I was very passionate about music and the arts being a part of the curriculum for every student, K through 12. But I also knew that it had to be delivered by certified teachers, people who knew what they were doing. Historically, the reason that a lot of music programs in education had failed is because people thought, well, music education, okay, play some records and let the kids listen, and that's music education. But it isn't. It's got to be by people who know what they're talking about, who are passionate about it, and who can explain the value, what's really happening underneath what is just maybe heard by the ear. So I started this process, and I found the legislators who were willing to work with me. I had a overwhelmingly Democratic legislature. I was a Republican governor.
Republican governor working across many aisles.
And it was
the
tough
dream
pickings
we
at
all
times.
have now for the future.
I mean, I had 90% Democrats in a legislature, and I was the only Republican essentially at the Capitol in a statewide office. But here's what I found, Mary. This is an issue that builds bridges instead of walls. It is an issue that across the political spectrum, people embrace the value of music and the arts. Now, people say, well, if they embrace it so much, how come they don't mandate? And I'll tell you, because no one's ever challenged them to. And nobody has ever helped explain to them that if you really want to improve math and science and language and all the things that people say we've got to see improvement in education, you don't cut music and arts out. You add to, and that is what enhances science and math and language study. And we're so blessed that increasing academic studies show that. But to roll back to the specific more of what happened, one thing, and I've said this to people across the country when they say, how did you get this done? I said, look, you'll never have music and arts in the schools if you don't mandate it. Because what you mandate, you will fund. Because you have to. It's the law. If you don't mandate it, if you just have hearings and you have feel good, pat on the back, tip of the hat to the music and arts, you're going to have people applauding. Oh, this is wonderful. Unfortunately, we don't have the money to fund it. Guess what? When you force it, you fund it. So I always tell people this is the formula. Forget about advocacy. If you're not going to advocate putting it into the law that every student must have a music and arts education, because when that happens, guess what? You find the funding because you have to.
And I learned that phrase from you, forced to fund.
Yeah.
And the force comes, and that mandate can come in the form of a graduation requirement, a middle school requirement.
Sure.
It has taken various forms in various places. But you did something even more unique in Arkansas. It was a requirement.
It was a requirement.
In the elementary years.
And I want to emphasize it was a requirement for music and art, not one or the other. One of the things that pushed me to do this was because I knew that the right brain-oriented students, the kids who end up becoming the CEOs, and all the A students and the valedictorians work for those kids. We can laugh about it, but that's really the way it usually works. The people who are the true innovators, the people who are Bill Gates and Stephen Jobs and Steven Spielberg, the people who come up with the amazing next thing, these are the right brain kids, the ones that sometimes get shoved over in the corner and they're considered to be slow learners, nerds, not cooperative. They're all of those things, but what they really are is they're brilliant and they're thinking in a way that is different than the left brain dominant kids who think very logically and in a linear way. Right brain kids don't think like that, but they're the ones who create the magic things that we need. And if we bore them to death, instead of developing an Apple computer or software, what we'll end up doing is we'll see them drop out. And what a shame. What a loss, not to that kid, the loss to all of us.
So did you just keep going back to the state legislature and the education hearings and saying, we got to do this. We got to do this. We got to do this.
Yeah, you do.
We got to do this.
You build it empirically.
Right.
And I think if I could walk through briefly the process, what you do is you first find people in the arts community. That's not hard. They're there. You need their advocacy at the Capitol. You need them to show up with you. Then you need to find a handful of legislators that ordinarily would never work together on. Get a few Republicans, a few Democrats, get some real strong, hardcore conservatives that everybody thinks will be against it, but who aren't. Find some way out liberals that maybe people would expect to be maybe favorable toward spending money, but maybe they've never been asked to work with someone on the other side of the fence.
And you give them a win.
You sit them down. That's right. And you say, guys,
give them a win together.
Yeah, this is not about
otherwise not be able to have.
This is not about anybody's ideology. This is about helping kids to succeed and achieve. This is about building the next generation. Who's against that? Well, nobody is. In fact, an interesting figure, there was a survey done that 91% of American parents favor increased funding in music and arts.
And we did that survey, by the way.
Yeah.
And I remember you telling us if a politician had that approval rating, right?
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. And I've said this, there's not a politician in America that wouldn't like to embrace something that has that level of approval. Right. Because most everything that he or she is fighting for, they're lucky to get 50 plus 1. Politics is really simple. There's nothing complicated about it. It's math, and it's simple math. 50 plus 1 wins. 50 minus 1 loses. And I don't care how brilliant your idea is. It's about numbers. Well, when you can say to a person, left, right, middle, wherever, how'd you like to be a champion for something that 91% of your constituents thinks is a great idea and there's no downside? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's harder to find people who are against it than it is to find people who are for it.
We found in our work that no one is really against it.
Yeah.
It's getting to the next level to actually get the requirements, to actually force to fund. And I think we're smarter than we've been. I mean, there's more activity. We've got the passage of the ESSA clearly opens a gate for these conversations to have on the state level around well-rounded educations.
And Mary, one of the reasons it's hard is because the resistance is not where people think it is. The people think the resistance is the legislature. It usually is not. The resistance is the monolithic education lobby that is afraid you're going to take money from something they like and something they're already involved in. So you have to find some people within the education world who also agree. Here's a little secret. Most superintendents, not all, but most superintendents come from the athletic world. because a lot of the principals and superintendents were coaches, and as they evolved in their career, it was like that's the place where they evolved to. So you don't have as many champions at the superintendent level and at the principal level. So where do you get them? You get them on the school boards. You get them from the legislature. You get them from the community of arts. And then you get them from the individual music and arts teachers and the people who are teaching music and arts education at the colleges and universities. Because one thing that really helped us, when we had the college music and arts people coming in to say, we will train the teachers that you need, because we knew there was a 4-year ramp up. When we said we got to hire hundreds of music and arts teachers to fill this mandate. I can't tell you how excited they were at the university level. And then after we passed it, a couple of years in, there were some legislators who said, gee, we can't afford this. We may want to water this down. Guess who came to the Capitol in force and shut that down? All those freshly minted music and arts teachers who said, hey, guys, you told us if we got our degree, we'd be going to work, and now you're telling us you're going to pull the rug out from under us? I don't think so.
And it's so wonderful what you're saying, because since we started our work together, sharing our work together, we have been very active with the National School Boards Association. I mean, every convention, we sponsor high-performing high school ensembles that play at the plenary stages in front of 8,000 and 9,000 school board members.
Yeah.
We're very active with our Best Communities program with school administrators all over the country. We take the awards about the best communities and we send it to the governors and lieutenant governors, and they make plaques with ribbons and send them down to the schools. I mean, we have now had the same kind of banner that if you get all state, you hang in the gym. We have now the best community banner that you hand in the gym for music education. So, we're really, trying to impact all those edges, all those levels. And music teachers, we've found informally that a music educator that graduates has 100% chance of a job placement.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
100% chance of a job placement if you're a music education
this economy,
major.
That ain't bad.
So I think that there's, we've made progress, but we also know this is a relentless job. We will never stop advocating for it. So that's a wonderful. Thank you for reminiscing with me about what happened in Arkansas, and from a governor who did it, who pushed it through. We need to keep listening to these techniques.
One of the things that I think was helpful is that because I was a Republican, a lot of people assumed Republicans weren't into music and arts, and I still get that. I thought you were a Republican,
Yeah, as you've said, I'm a Republican, but I'm not angry about it. Right.
But,
they just stole your one line.
Republicans like music and arts, too, and that's one of the surprises. So this is something that really can break through the normal political noise that is so divisive.
Yeah, and I think we all know we've gone through a very divisive election season. Certainly you were in the middle of it.
Yeah.
And you experienced it in so many ways. And I know there's probably a book in there.
Maybe there are tire tracks on my back.
Right,
I know that.
But as a music education advocacy community, we have really are pulling ourselves together once again, saying we know our true north. We know what we care about. And it is really nonpartisan.
Yeah.
We may have to enter into partisan conversations to get things done, but it is a nonpartisan issue that we are galvanized together. So that's why this NAMM show has been very important for our advocates coming from all over the country again to say, yeah, we're going to keep working, and we'll work with all elected officials to move this forward. So let's talk about what's happening tomorrow. You've chosen to be here at NAMM instead of the inauguration. I know you will be missed. I know that was an invitation that...
It's hard not to be at the inauguration. I admit that. I think my entire family's going to be there. My daughter's going to work at the White House, so she's certainly going to be there.
Tell us about that, if you could. That's wonderful
They will
news.
announce, I think, officially her job, but she's going to work in the West Wing of the White House, a very significant position. I'm so happy for her.
She was very visible on the campaign.
She was
very
and Trump
present.
Loved her. And he would often say to me, Huck, I like you. You're a good guy. But your daughter, she's great. She's terrific.
Somehow we can hear him saying that.
Yeah.
Right?
But, I had already committed that I would be at NAMM. I wasn't even thinking about the dates. And then I have a speaking engagement in Southern California on Friday night and Saturday noon, and I can't get back there and back. And I know it sounds crazy, and people are going to say, I can't believe you're not there. But you know what? They'll have that going on just fine. And I was contractually obligated to the speech, and I was morally obligated to you. Yeah. I told you I was going to be here.
We wanted you
and
back,
so
for sure.
Here I am.
So
Don't tell anybody.
Right. Well, this will air. Well, actually, we're Facebook Living it. So I guess now everybody will start tweeting.
Knows.
Where is that Mike Huckabee? Why isn't he here?
Why is he?
Well, we'll stand up for you.
In spirit.
Not to worry.
It's nothing other than, I made some promises and I got to keep them.
One thing our community, our music arts education advocacy community is seeking to understand is how do we make connections with this new administration? Because it was an unconventional campaign.
Yes.
I mean, I go back even the 20 years or so that I've been working, every campaign had developed a committee, an arts committee. Mm-hmm. And there were spokespeople that we were able to contact, and we had them on conference calls and from both sides of the campaigns. You were on them, our conference calls. Governor Richardson was on them. We had a McCain spokesperson. We had an Obama spokesperson was on our call. So we tried to, but this didn't happen this time. We don't have a flight path into this administration to say there's a community here.
Yeah.
Are they aware of this community that cares deeply about music and arts education? So the question is, how do we make these connections?
Well, I think there's going to be a way to get there, and I want to be helpful in that. I'm in a position where I can be helpful.
We hope you will be helpful.
I plan to be.
Great.
But I think too, there's so many things that this new administration is going to have to get their arms around quickly that are national security, the economy, and things that are so overwhelming. So I'm not going to pretend that in the first month of the new administration, we're going to hear a speech on music and the arts. Here's what I think we will do. We'll begin to lay the groundwork with the key people in the administration, stress that we understand that this will be kind of lined up in the pecking order as they get squared away. But then, as we find key advocates in the administration, use them as leverage points. Work with the incoming Department of Education Secretary Betsy DeVos, who I think will be very favorable to what we want to do.
We know that of her wonderful support both at home in Grand Rapids and, of course, her work on the Kennedy Center Board.
Exactly. So we're going to have a friend in the education department. And then I think the key thing is to work through the National Governors Association and the Regional Governors Association, Western, Southern, New England, because the real key to making this happen is not at the federal level. It's at the state level. The federal government really doesn't have a whole lot to do.
And that was the plan.
Yeah.
That was the plan of the new education law.
The biggest thing we can do at the federal level is get them to voice their support and to say, this is okay, this is good. The real work, the heavy lifting, comes in each of the state capitals. But I do believe that there is a strategy that we can employ, finding out, who's the chairman of the national governors and saying, we want a spot on the program. We want to be able to present, because they're always looking for, what's the idea that will help me better lead my state, lead my students. Every governor cares about education because he spends most of his state's budget on it. Right. Every one of them, all 50. So if you can say, would you be interested if I could tell you how to better use the dollars in education, get better results in science, math, language, and make better students and not lose as many to drop out? Would you be interested in that?
Graduation rates, attendance rates.
Sure.
We have schools now reporting that are reinstating their music ed, that because they're reporting better attendance rates, they get that per capita per day reimbursement back from the.
Yeah.
It's all the programs are paying for themselves because students are coming to school and they get the state reimbursement for attendance.
It's called FTE, full-time equivalent, and what it means, it's just, it's rather mercenary.
Yeah.
But if the kid doesn't show up, they don't get the money.
Right. And if they want to show up to play trumpet, that's day one. That's the way we start. And I want to tell you, too, since our first years together, we now have what we call the Coalition on Coalitions. And we have NAM members active in today 13 states, with probably 4 or 5 more coming online. We have state advocacy drive-ins. There's one occurring in Iowa next Wednesday. John Lloyd Young from Jersey Boys is going to be a guest.
Nice.
We help our NAM members network into artists. We'll go and do testimony and talk about the value. They have in Iowa, they've just added, they got for the first time an arts ed consultant in the Department of Ed through their advocacy. Someone who absolutely coordinates, access equity data across the state, looks at curriculum. So there's been progress, And the Governors Association, when we come together in May at our fly-in, we're going to be focusing on our connections with the National Governors Association, not unlike when we did when you were the chairman of Education Commission on the States, which now the Arts Education Partnership is now become a part of Education Commission on the States. And their new executive director is going to be in our lovely booth in a few hours for a podcast interview. So, we're trying to whip up all the concentric circles. And our NAM members are more active than ever. So it's just kind of my report to you.
That's outstanding, though.
That we have stayed the course and really have taken it seriously. So you're hopeful.
Very.
You're hopeful with the new administration. Because, at the end of the day, we want to give them a win, too.
Yeah.
This is a win.
This is a bridge builder.
This is a win.
There are a lot of people that don't like the new president. And a lot of people in the arts community are just even hostile. This is a way for him to show that he's not an enemy of the things that they embrace.
Right.
And I think it's very important that they see that.
And if we care about kids, there's a certain point where we all have to put down our top tier issues and just go work together. Because when I'm in schools, and I'm in schools every week somewhere in the country, I just see the dramatic need and opportunity for kids to have this. Mm-hmm. They're multisensory learners. They're multilingual learners. We need teachers that are revved up to teach a new, the new need of our kids today. We're very committed to all of that. So as we kind of wrap up a bit, I have a confession, which is since I've met you, which is now almost 10 years ago. Are we 10?
At least 10, yeah.
10, more. And I have to let our audience know, too, and to share thanks for your great contributions to our work at the conventions. You've been with us for 2 or 3 of the national conventions.
At least 3.
At least 3 that you've actually chaired panels, and you've always come through for us. And it's been just wonderful that you've helped us with that again. Through our nonpartisan advocacy effort. Of course, this last summer we were at both conventions. Yeah. And I think for me, being at the Republican I was in the hall the night of the Ted Cruz speech. It was a very historic moment of kind of public citizenry in action in prime time. It was pretty
tense.
Pretty tense. But, as you said, we are very committed to building bridges. But over the years, I confess, Governor Huckabee, I have said it without attribution, your famous line, what's so wonderful about music and arts education is they are instruments of mass instruction.
Yes.
And I have said this, I've used it, and so I confess that you have no royalty fees coming off of it. Sorry.
Well, it's true. It is.
Why has this resonated with so many people and it really wraps it up. It's the best Twitter handle we could have.
Well, people can embrace that. They see it. And I don't know of anybody, especially people in the military, who say, gosh, I hope we can have another war. So when you talk about weapons of mass destruction, we're talking about things that hurt people. Taking that phrase and turning it, talking about weapons of mass instruction, saying this is a way that you take kids who might be on the streets and violent, and you give them something very positive to do with their time and their talents. Do we have any idea how many people we save when we take a knife or a gun out of the hand of a teenager and put a trumpet in his hand or drumsticks? Channel the energy. The energy's there. Every teenager has it, and you can't stop that. But if you can channel the energy towards something positive, something he can embrace and say, I can be good at this, that's another reason. And keeping that kid off the street, out of becoming a stat of a dropout, because he really gets interested. I think there are ways to help people see in the inner city. Yeah. This is not just for the upper middle class and the extremely affluent. Arts ought to be out there, because look at where some of the great artists of our day came from. They came from the most difficult circumstances of life. They came out of poverty. Many of the great musicians and great actors and great artists of our time, they know the pain, the deprivation of life, and it makes them great artists because they're hungry. So I just see this as a overarching ability to say, if you'd like to see a kid succeed, let's put an instrument in his hands.
You know, there's so many nights where I'm listening to the news and I feel deeply the pain and circumstances of families and young people around our country. And I've said to myself, just we've got to find a way to give them a horn. You know,
Yeah.
They need to be go in a drop-in center
Right.
or a Boys and Girls Clubs. And then there's a lot more programs like this occurring also around the country where modern band programs are working in community settings. So,
And Mary, think
we
about
need
this.
to be vigilant.
Think
Make
about
sure it
how many
happens.
kids do you see walking around everywhere with earbuds?
Yeah.
What are they doing? Are they listening to War and Peace? Are they listening
Audio
to
books,
an
no.
audio book on advanced economic theory? No.
Right.
They're listening to what? To music.
Right.
Go to the kid who's listening to it all the time he's awake and say, instead of just listening to it, would you like to play it? Would you like to make that
Or
music?
learn to be a DJ
Yeah.
or learn use the technology.
Or instead of watching a movie, would
Right.
you like to act on stage?
It's the soundtrack of their lives.
Exactly what it is.
So, your impressions of the NAMM show? Haven't been back for a while. What do you think?
Oh, you know, I think I skipped a year or two, maybe a year. I don't know. I was out here 2 years ago. But it's fresh and as exciting as ever. Just go into that exhibit hall, see not only the new products, which sometimes are just amazing, but then to see the vendors, you know, the music makers. It's a must-do event if you're in any way, whether you're amateur or professional, connected to music. This is a show you want to come to, and it's just like rubbing shoulders with all the people you want to share life with.
And, you know, we have a couple new programs. One is our Music Education Days. We have about 1,500 certified, qualified music teachers that we host here over the weekend, and about 1,800 college music students who are on their ways to looking at their careers in music.
Great.
So, and their faculty members. So we're really trying to create a community, you know, of people. And so what's next for Governor Huckabee? Beyond being on a lot of planes and giving a lot of
planes.
speeches, maybe figuring out if there's a book after all of this.
Well, in fact, interestingly, you should mention that because I'm working on a book that should be released around Christmas of this year. And it's tentatively titled The Christmas Guitar. And it's all about music, its impact on my life. And it's going to be a series of essays, but a fun book, but celebrating music and how music is the gift that we can give, but it's also the gift that never stops giving back.
Wow.
So it's going to be a fun book. You're going to love this book, Mary. I'm telling
you. We better talk. We better go on retreat somewhere. I
Yeah.
think there's some really nice beach near your house somewhere.
Yes, there is.
And I'll bring my bike. But to talk about, you let me know how I can, serve as a silent partner to get some of those key messages in there. Not that you need any help. But,
Well,
this would be how many books?
It'll be book number 13.
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
There's many of us who know you that goes, how do you do?
It's therapeutic for me.
Yeah.
This is going to be one of those books that'll be fun to write. It won't be political at all. There would be no politics in it. I want to take a break from that. I mean, I still comment on it, but I'll do a lot of speeches this year. I'm traveling literally around the world doing speaking events, but I will focus a lot on writing this book. And it's going to be one that I think may be the most fun I will have ever had writing it.
Well, we want to stay close to that. Keep us
Will do.
posted. Well, this is a first episode here from the NAMM Show 2017 from Anaheim, California. Our first recorded podcast. Couldn't have started better.
Thank you.
With a great reunion with our wonderful friend, Governor Mike Huckabee. Good luck out there. Be
Thank you,
careful.
Mary.
Have
Great to see
fun.
you.
And let's stay in close touch.
Will do. Thanks.
Thanks all.
Talking Up Music Education is a podcast created by the NAMM Foundation. To learn more about how you can support music education in your community or how you can be part of the work of the NAMM Foundation, visit our website, www.nammfoundation.org, or join us on Facebook at facebook.com/NAMM Foundation. You can also follow Mary on Twitter at MaryLNAMM.